Okay, I'm going to walk through the crucial process of conceptualization and operationalization. These steps I'm going to go through are essential from from abstract ideas to concrete measurable variables. So we're going to start with conceptualization. This is where we define the concept that we want to study. Conceptualization involves defining the meaning of a concept or variable, and this is often derived from theory, although we sometimes do exercises where it's not, including assignments that you have in this course. Conceptualization is about representing and capturing the shared and widely accepted understanding of what terms mean. And you really do need to capture as much of the full range of meanings associated with the term as possible. So here's an example from the idea of social support. Social support is the perception and actuality that one is cared for, has assistance available from other people, and is part of a supportive social network. But this is not enough. We need to make sure that other researchers can understand what we mean. So we need to explain, what do we mean by is cared for? What do we mean by assistance? What do we mean by a supportive social network? Conceptual definitions are like a Russian nesting doll. We have to keep on defining any new term that we introduce. So here's our revised social support with further definitions. Social support is the perception and actuality that first one is cared for. Being cared for refers to the emotional aspect of support where an individual feels valued, loved, and emotionally sustained by others. This can manifest as empathy, concern, affection, and a sense of belonging. Second, the perception and actuality that one has assistance available from other people, which encompasses both instrumental and informational support. Instrumental support involves practical help, such as financial aid, physical assistance with tasks, or sharing of resources. Informational support can include advice, guidance, and useful information from others to help solve problems or make decisions. Third, the perception and actuality that one is part of a supportive social network. A supportive social network refers to a web of interpersonal relationships, which can include family, friends, colleagues, community members, that an individual can rely on for various forms of support. Now, I even introduced more terms in here. We would have to keep on defining them, but hopefully you can see how this makes it clearer to someone else. Conceptual definitions typically have dimensions. I already mentioned them in the above definition that I just discussed. For social support, one dimension could be emotional support, another could be instrumental support, and another could be informational support. Dimensions are aspects of concepts that group together logically. They're sort of like subgroups that operate within the overall meaning of the concept. Dimensions represent different components or facets of a broader concept, and they allow us to have a more nuanced understanding of complex concepts. Dimensions also help us capture the full range of meaning associated with a concept. Dimensions are usually distinct from each other, but they still are tapping into the same shared overall concept. And one of the reasons that we care so much about dimensions is the dimensions are usually tied to empirical indicators, which are part of an operationalization. So specifically, when we're operationalizing, researchers will often measure indicators of each dimension to fully capture a concept. And we understand that the dimensions of a concept can help us in developing more comprehensive and valid indicators. So with operationalization, that's where we are translating our concept into something we can measure. We're moving our understanding from relative abstraction and ambiguity towards something more specific and concrete and measurable. Operationalizations have two things. One, it identifies observable empirical indicators, and two, it expresses procedures like following a recipe. The procedures are like spelling out exactly how you're going to be applying indicators and collecting data. So for procedures, people will say something like, I will conduct a survey with high school students. I will try to recruit a diverse sample of Seattle area high school students. I will give them a questionnaire with the indicators on it. Those that score high in these indicators will be considered high in social support. Or it could be something like, I will conduct an experiment with elementary school students where I will manipulate perceived social support in 2 vignettes. In one vignette, the main character in the story will express that they lack instrumental social support. I will show that in the story by doing this and this and this and this. Observable empirical indicators should capture all possible variations of the concept. We want them to be numerical, to be precise, so we want closed-ended items. We tend to use multiple indicators rather than a single indicator, even for a single dimension. And for surveys, we're sort of phrasing these as survey items. So for example, with our social support concept, example indicators might be asking people, on a scale of 1 to 7, with, 1 being very strongly disagree and 1 being fairly strongly agree, answer the following. I can talk about my problems with my family. I can talk about my problems with my friends. My family really tries to help me. I can get advice from my family when making important decisions. And here you'll see in parentheses, I have emotional support, instrumental support, informational support. Your participants wouldn't see that, but this is just to show that these indicators are associated with different dimensions. And then we would take the total score by adding up all the items, and the higher scores would indicate perceived social support. So overall, there's often a gap between conceptual definitions and their operational definitions. So it's really important to make sure every dimension has an indicator and every indicator has a dimension. New terms require definitions, like a Russian nesting doll. And we always want to be remembering that we're trying to make it so people could replicate what we did. We have to be so specific that someone else could copy exactly what you did. So researchers really have to be thoughtful about this. Hopefully this helps you better understand the process, and you will be ready to create your own conceptual definitions and operational definitions.